We are live.
Hi guys,
Hello, welcome to the podcast. I'm John,
and I'm Hayley.
and this is the Speed Mooting Partners in Crime podcast,
Episode
74.
74, coming at you thick and fast, all the way from San Antonio, Texas this week.
Indeed, indeed. So we've been traveling around. So last week we recorded our podcast from New Braunfels,
Hmm.
which is a small town between Austin and San Antonio.
Yes.
And this week we're in San Antonio itself.
hmm New Braunfels is such a beautiful town. If you have the chance to visit Texas, I would 100% put it on your list. It's a German inspired town, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
I think it was German immigrants that came over and set up the town. So it's like the architecture and the buildings and everything. It's beautiful.
yeah,
And it's a strange comment to make, but it's such a clean place.
yeah.
Like coming from Liverpool, England, like there's not a scrap of like you don't see litter, you don't see anything. And everyone is just so respectful of how beautiful a place it is.
Yeah,
So we did a river float, didn't we?
yeah.
And everyone has their own rubbish bag that they take down the river with them. And every time they see any piece of rubbish like floating in the river, they'll pick it up and put it in the trash, as the Americans say. I said, you just wouldn't get that at home, would you?
Oh no, not
It's
at
a
all.
different world. I love it.
Yeah,
I love
it's
it.
brilliant. It's so
Mm,
clean out here.
yes. And San Antonio is beautiful as well. So we did the river walk last night, didn't we?
We did.
We went to see the Alamo. I think that was pretty much it, was it?
Yeah. Just had a
Just
good little
wandering
walk around.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice place to see, isn't it?
It's pretty special. And we're gonna go see the cathedral today. And we're gonna go cowboy line dancing tonight.
We are indeed.
So yeah, it's we're really enjoying Texas so far. So if we have any Texas listeners, howdy.
Howdy. So let's jump in. Let's name the episode.
Go for it, John.
Um, no Formula One drivers with number 74. Bored of wrestling. So we thought let's Google to see if there's any famous people from San Antonio. And the first person that popped up on Google, Michelle Rodriguez.
So of course we had to choose here.
Yeah. Famous for two things that we watch actually.
hmm
So, firstly, The Fast and the Furious, obviously a film that I've seen once or twice.
I'd be a bit of a fan of those movies.
Yeah, and Lost,
Lost. Yeah, Lost. That's where I knew her from.
was it?
And then when I watched Fast and Furious with you, I was like, oh, it's thingy off Lost. I was, oh, what's her name in Lost now?
Oh,
Anna Lucia. It's Anna Lucia off Lost.
it's funny how you can remember the names of characters from TV shows.
John
Uh,
has this. I think it's a pretty good ability actually. When he's finished watching something, not except once you've watched it more than once,
yeah,
but he just completely forgets it. So like, if we go, oh, this is a good film, let's watch it. And if I ask him a question like halfway through, like, oh, I can't remember who's that, what's happening, I can't remember. So he has the ability to rewatch things as if he's never watched them.
yeah, so good. And character names just never sink in with me. So we watched Yellowstone, which is like
Mm,
5 series long, and we've been season 5, and you go, oh, such and such a character. Dave did this. I'm like, who's Dave?
yeah, you just about got Rip and Beth, I think, by the end. You knew they
Yeah,
were.
got those too. John Dutton. Um, that beyond that, no.
Beyond that, no.
Yeah.
So, anyway, welcome to episode 74, the Michelle Rodriguez special.
Welcome.
So, as we may have mentioned, we are on holiday at the moment. So, this will be another bite-sized podcast
Yeah,
for you. We'll be back home. Will we be back home for the next recording?
we will.
We will, yeah. So, we'll make
Oh,
sure,
yeah, we will.
yeah,
We will.
we will give you a good episode. Although I'm shooting off on my hen do, so we'll have to squeeze that in as soon as we get home.
Literally, yeah.
It'll be a jet lag special.
Yeah. Might record it on the plane.
Might record it on the plane. Yeah. So anyway, this is going to be a shorter episode, and we're just going to focus on an Ask Speed Squad special because we had our Advocacy Club session this week, and we have lots of questions to get through.
Yeah, that we do.
Do you want to tell people what the Advocacy Club was?
So this week we focused on the closing speech. So we've had 3 sessions in a row, all on a criminal trial. So members got to conduct a full criminal trial. the opening speech, witness handling, and then lastly, the third part was the closing speech. My favorite form of advocacy. So yeah, so it's a criminal trial, and for the purposes of the closing speech, members were arguing on behalf of the defendant. So he'd been charged with Section 39, assault by beating. His defense was it's all fabricated, didn't happen, wasn't me. Yeah, so they had to represent the closing speech in that trial.
Hmm.
So we had a fair few questions on the night, and we got through. I say on the night, it was 1:30 in the afternoon for us, but 7:30 back home. So we answered as many questions as we could. We actually ran over, but we've still got more questions to get through. So Haley, let's jump in with an Ask Speed Squad special.
Let's go. So you actually did answer this one on the in the meeting, John, but I'm gonna ask it again because I think it's just a good overview for our listeners anyway.
Okay.
So, what would you say are the main differences and things to remember when delivering a closing speech to a bench of magistrates when comparing that to a jury in a Crown Court?
Okay. For the most part, I'd say they're relatively similar, so you're going to be covering the same points. So, ideally you want to be covering, what the law is to a point, burden and standard of proof, and of course, the key features in the evidence as to why it is that you should win effectively. Um, what you can assume though with a bench of magistrates is that they spend more time in court than a jury do naturally. So they probably spend anywhere from 30 to 60 days a year in court. So they'll understand some basic things. So you can assume some knowledge on the part of magistrates. So you can treat certain things as trite, if I put it that way. But for the most part, your closing speech is going to be almost identical. The key difference probably is that with magistrate court trials, they tend to involve simpler offences. The trials tend to be shorter, there tends to be less evidence. And naturally, that means that your closing speech will probably be shorter in the magistrate's court. That's not to say that, you can't have a short closing speech in the Crown Court. Certain low level offences do get people do elect on those. I had a trial, it was a 2 day trial, and my closing speech was 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And the jury acquitted. So it can happen, but as a general rule, your closing speeches tend to be longer to a jury just because you're dealing with more evidence and generally more complex cases.
Okay, good answer, good answer. Are there any particularly strong or memorable closing speeches that you've learned from?
That's a good one.
So I have an answer for this
Go on.
while you think of yours. So back when I was doing my GCSEs and I was doing media studies, and we had a part of this subject where we were learning all about monologues.
Yeah,
So we were watching loads of like movie clips with long monologues, and we watched the closing speech scene from A Time to Kill,
yeah,
and I was like, wow, that was insane. I mean, obviously, the subject matter of that film is very, very emotive anyway, but I think that was a killer closing speech. So I always remember that one.
yeah.
But obviously, that's a movie, that's not real. They might be asking you if you've seen any real ones.
Yeah. I mean, the classic Johnny Cochran's closing speech in the O.J. Simpson trial.
Mm,
If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Um, that it's a Los Angeles jury, so I think the American legal system's a bit different to ours. I think they can be a little bit more theatrical than we can.
hmm.
But the principles are still there. And what he's basically saying is, there's doubt, and when there's doubt, the obvious answer is an acquittal.
Yeah.
So, thinking about how you incorporate that doubt, and I think that's a brilliant closing speech.
Hmm.
Um, one particular one I saw, I was co-defending with somebody, and her client didn't give evidence, and she, within her closing speech, basically gave a history of when defendants could because previously defendants couldn't give evidence in their own trial. It was only 100 or so years ago that defendants could actually give evidence at trial. So she went through a bit of a history of it and said, look, in the past, a defendant would not even be able to go in the witness box and give evidence in any event. And basically saying, just because, you got this piece, and this piece of evidence, don't automatically jump to the conclusion he must be guilty.
Hmm.
So it was very, obviously there was a lot more to it than that, but I thought that was a very impactful closing speech by giving a bit of a history and a bit of the background to, when defendants finally got the right to give evidence. So I thought that was a really good one. If ever you find yourself in the situation whereby your client isn't going to give evidence.
Hmm.
But I think that the big one I've learned over the years from watching people is when there is some doubt, asking rhetorical questions, pausing, getting the jury to think about it. So
Yeah.
that's one thing I've picked up through osmosis.
Oh, cool, cool. So I think you've just touched on this because you mentioned about how a closing speech in America is different to a
Okay.
closing speech over here. But how personal and judgmental can you be in your closing speech to try and persuade the jury or the magistrates?
Okay. Well, judgmental. I wouldn't, I'd avoid being sort of judgmental,
Yeah,
But the purpose of closing speech is to comment on the evidence. Okay, so let's say, um, I don't know, really doesn't matter which side you're for, whether prosecution or defense. But if you've got a witness for the other side, so take an example. Let's say you're defending. Let's say a prosecution witness is inconsistent. They said this at this point. They then said this later on. They said it was three punches initially, then they said it was only one kick. As an extreme example of
yeah,
inconsistency. You'll mention that in your closing speech, but it's not enough just to say that. You need to comment on that and comment, well, why is it that that person is inconsistent? Is it because they're making it up? Is it, whatever it might be? Comment on the evidence. So this is your opportunity to really comment on that. So you're not going to be judgmental.
hmm,
And you might even give a reason for it. You might say, well, this witness, obviously it's the first time in court, take that into account. However, we cannot escape the fact that this individual um has been inconsistent. So
yeah,
I had a case quite recently whereby I was cross-examining someone quite young. I think they were only about 18 or 19, and they were massively inconsistent. And
yeah,
they're making certain allegations about my client. And this was in the magistrate's court. And I actually prefaced it with, I said to the magistrate, I can't remember exactly how I phrased this, but I said, in fairness to him, he's very young. I imagine he's nervous. It's the first time in court. However, we can't escape the fact that he was inconsistent on this and this. This cannot be true if this is,
yes,
so, I prefaced it. I was, so coming back to the judgmental point, I was trying to be as fair to this witness as I possibly could be, but I've still got to put forward the point that he's been massively inconsistent. And I
yes.
think that allows me to be human. It shows that I'm not just, being really aggressive, being overly critical for no reason of this person.
Hmm.
I'm commenting on the evidence in the way in which it came out.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, and then in terms of personality, I mean, it's you're not really there. It's not a personality contest. It's not a popularity contest. That's commenting on personality and personal traits and the like. That's for a player mitigation. So I wouldn't really go down that road.
yeah, yeah. Cool. Um, so we had a question. I'm going to expand it a little bit, but the question was, in the closing speech, do the magistrates sit and take notes? But I'm going to expand this question and just ask, explain the process a little bit more about a closing speech from the perspective of the magistrate. So,
Okay.
for example, I imagine they do just sit and take notes as you're speaking, and then they go off and deliberate. Are those deliberations usually, you know, 15 minutes, an hour, or can they be like jury deliberations? Can you be sat for hours and hours while they think?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, in terms of note taking, some magistrates do, some magistrates don't. Okay. So, um, what you want to do is, watch their pens. If they're struggling to keep up, make sure you keep your pace nice and slow so that they can take notes. So you might have some magistrates that are there constantly scribbling notes. Others might be just sitting back and listening because they've heard the evidence.
Yeah.
They just want to now hear your commentary on it and how you're piecing it all together. And then once the magistrates have heard your closing speech, they will, yeah, normal. I mean, I imagine there might be situations whereby the magistrates can just sit together and have a chat, but normally they'd always go in the back and deliberate. I think
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen a situation where they haven't.
Okay.
How long does it take? Well, it's one of those. How long is a piece of string? So it could be quite short. It could take a long time. I um
Is it always comparatively shorter than a jury deliberation though, or not?
Yeah, I mean, most magistrates' court trials tend to be less than a day.
Yeah,
So you
yeah, yeah.
tend to be, sometimes a magistrate's court trial could be 2 hours. So take this example. This trial will probably be an hour and a half, if
Hmm.
that. So then you jump onto your closing speeches. Your closing speeches would be, less than 10 minutes each. So you probably have, all in all, this would be about a 2 hour trial.
Yeah.
So I would imagine the magistrates will probably deliberate for between half an hour and an hour. Sometimes they can deliberate for longer than the trial took place. But yeah. Um, so yeah, so how long they take to deliberate though, that's the $1 million question. So they might go back and they might be back in 10 minutes, they could be back in a couple of hours. So you can have the situation whereby they deliberate longer than the trial was.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I actually had a Crown Court trial where the jury deliberated longer than the trial took. So we had a case. It was, I can't remember what the offence was now, but we literally did the full trial from the judge's opening remarks to the jury all the way through to the jury being kicked out. 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Hmm.
The jury were out longer than that. Yeah, I got the acquittal,
Well, that's all
but
that
that's
matters.
all that
Doesn't
matters.
matter how long it takes if you get
Yeah.
the right result.
But yeah, 2 hours and 10 minutes that trial was, and the jury were out longer.
That's funny. Right, they are all of our questions, but we did get some nice comments, so I'm just gonna
Oh,
share
brilliant.
those.
Please do.
So this one made me laugh. So someone on the night asked John, because we've been working through this criminal trial for the last 3 months at the Advocacy Club, haven't we? So someone said, now that the trial's finished, John, what's your view? Would it be guilty or not guilty? And John gave this very diplomatic, typical lawyer answer, I guess, but you did give an opinion.
Yeah.
And then someone commented and said, thank you, John. That was very diplomatic. Are you the secret barrister by any chance?
Um, I can neither confirm nor deny.
Look, let's just say you have you ever seen John or the secret barrister in the same room?
No.
So funny. Oh, okay, next one. Thank you, John and Haley. I've really enjoyed the closing speech session. Thank you also for all your helpful points.
Oh, amazing.
Yes. And then thank you so much. The whole trial series was so fun.
Wow, that's a boss. That is some amazing
Yeah.
feedback.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you're listening to this and you think, oh, I would have loved that, I want to get involved, then I've got some great news for you. You can. Because the Advocacy Club runs all year long. We have sessions twice a month if you're in the combined club, and you can join at any point in time. You can join right now as you're listening to this, and you can come along to our next sessions, which are going to be on presentations
Yep.
and my personal favorite, civil submissions. So yeah, if you want to join the Advocacy Club and take part next time, just go to our website, speedmooting.com/advocacy-club, and you'll find all the info. And you can join us because there is no limit on the amount of members
Nope.
that we have. That is the beauty of the Advocacy Club. Every single one of you are welcome. Doesn't matter what stage you're at, what age you are, whether you're in practice, whether you're just tipping your toe into the legal waters, as it were, you're all welcome. So
Yeah,
please, please do have a look and consider joining.
absolutely. Well, I think that brings us to the end, doesn't it?
I think so. We have a date with San Antonio Cathedral.
That we do. So, Haley, have you enjoyed recording?
I've enjoyed recording it, Jam.
I've enjoyed recording. I hope you've enjoyed listening. If you're still listening at this point, drop us a comment below. San Antonio with a cowboy hat emoji.
Boom.
See you next week.
Bye,
Take care.
guys.
Bye bye.